There are hundreds of varieties of box cutters on the market, but to tell you the truth, box cutter injuries aren't caused by the type of cutter used, but by the inattention or lack of training of the individual using the box cutter. If you keep your free hand, plus your arms and legs, out of the cutting path, you can't cut yourself. First of all, don't call box cutters box cutters. Begin right now calling them finger cutters. If you start thinking of them as finger cutters, your mind will subconsciously think of danger when you use them. Every time you see or use one, think of finger cutter. After a while, you'll be especially careful when using one of these finger cutters. Let's watch some box cutting in action and see if you can tell the difference between a person cutting a box safely or unsafely. Watch closely. Let's see if you detected the person using the cutter improperly. This person is cutting a box using the cutter. What happens if the cutter slips off the box? If your hand, arm, or leg is in the cutting path and the blade slips off the box you're cutting, guess what happens? Anytime you're using the cutter, take time for safety. There isn't any job that can't be done safely, especially if you're using a finger cutter. It's okay to work hard and fast, but when you neglect to add safety to the job, you're asking for trouble. Let's look at the proper way to cut cardboard. This person is using the free hand to steady the box, but it's not in the cutting path. If the blade slips, it won't cut anything. Let's watch a few more examples of cutting boxes safely. Okay, we've made the point of keeping your hand, fingers, arms, and legs out of the cutting path of the blade. The next rule is to be particularly careful when changing blades. This is the time where your fingers are exposed to the sharp blade. Stop. Think about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. When you change blades, it's no time to be in a hurry. If the blade is stuck, don't force it. When you exert a lot of pressure trying to dislodge the blade from the cutter, 9 times out of 10, the blade is going to break or be pulled out unexpectedly, and you end up with an injury. Take your time. Be sure you know how to change the blade, and use caution when handling both the new and old blades. The next important step is to properly dispose of the old blade. It should be put in a metal container specifically for used blades. The reason for not dumping it into a trash container is someone must handle the trash. It may not be an employee, it might be the people who pick up the trash, or the guy in the landfill where it's dumped. There are many reasons for not putting dangerous used blades into trash containers. Use a metal can or container designed for used blades. Of course, never leave them lying around on shelves or other materials. Where do you put the finger cutter when it's not in use? In your pocket? Well, we won't go into statistics, but many of the box cutter injuries in the workplace are a result of keeping the cutters in your pocket. We know that pockets are handy places to keep the cutter, but what happens if the cutter blade slips out of the closed handle while it's in your pocket? When you reach in to get the cutter, the blade could be open enough to cause a cut, or you might bend over or sit down and find out how deep a cut a finger cutter can cause. When you're not using a box cutter, store it where it can be used again, perhaps on a cart or other easily accessible storage area. You might even consider several areas where all finger cutters are stored when not in use. Above all, don't carry them in your pocket, and always make sure the blade is retracted when it's not being used. Okay, we've got you thinking finger cutter, keeping your free hand, arms, legs out of the cutting path. You're not carrying the cutter in your pocket, and you're using extra caution when changing blades. What's the next step? Well, basically, that's it. But in a work environment, there are always 100 different situations not covered by safety rules, procedures, or policies. That's when your good judgment and safety come together to determine the safest way to perform the task at hand. Safety isn't complicated. These rules we just explained aren't complicated, but these basic safety rules were developed from experience. Safety rules are learned from accidents and injuries. Over the years, safety professionals have analyzed and studied box cutter injuries. Manufacturing companies have designed hundreds of different devices to help reduce the potential for accidents. But the real truth of the matter has been that you, the individual, have the most important role in accident prevention. If you take safety seriously, follow the rules, and don't take shortcuts, there's no way you'll experience an injury when using a finger cutter. It's when you take chances or disregard safety procedures or you don't pay attention to the job that accidents and injuries occur. We call it unsafe acts. An unsafe act is something you do or fail to do. It can be a conscious act or subconscious, but it's something you do or fail to do that results in an unplanned event, such as an accident or injury. It's not that employees deliberately try to hurt themselves or that they don't care or they're poor employees. Safety isn't always first and foremost on your mind. You're busy, you have a lot of things to do, you're in a hurry, and safety doesn't always fit into the design. If you take safety seriously, take the time to perform your job safely, and have a good safety attitude, then you'll be a safe employee. If you begin to think safety all the time, it'll flow over into your personal life at home, recreation activities, even when operating your automobile. When you're using finger cutters, it's even more critical. The most important safety feature on any type of finger cutter is the operator. If you want to be accident and injury-free, then that's what will happen. If you do experience a finger cutter accident or injury, then you have committed an unsafe act. It's that simple.